Hey, James, are you here? I think he just dropped out. There we go. You're muted.
There, we'll try it that way.
There we go.
Now you can't see me. One more second. We got this, I think. Okay, now, all right, I'm not going to touch anything. You can't see me right now, but you can hear me. So I think we're just going to go with that. Okay?
Okay, works for me.
All right.
And then, do you have access to the chat as well for when they ask questions?
I hope so. Yes, actually, I do have the. I'm trying to do. I just showed it to you, like you can see what I'm doing. That's what I get for taking my iPad on a trip and not my MacBook, because I thought I could do this really easily on the iPad, and that's why we have planning sessions and things to go run through things. But again, being up in the mountains, it didn't really help out. So I think I'm ready. Are you going to hang out for this, Todd, or is this?
I'm going to jump around and make sure everyone else is okay before I come back, but I'll probably stop by for a little bit.
Okay. All right. Very good.
All right.
All right. Thanks much.
Good luck.
All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is James O'Hagan. I am the Director of Digital and Virtual Podcast. I realize right now that you're probably wondering where the heck is James and where are the slides? Well, again, I am up in the mountains around Colorado and brought my iPad thinking, oh, this won't be any issue, and missed the tryout time last night. So it always pays to prepare, even though you've done these things a bunch of times, to make sure that you actually can do all this. So yeah, the iPad is not fully functional in this right now that I can tell is best, even with the mobile app. So if you are looking for the links to the slides, I actually have posted the slides
up to my link tree. So if you, and I'll post it in a second here into the Hopin chat, but if you go into that link tree, you'll have all the slides and you can kind of follow along with me as we go through it. And I'll also have the Q&A and everything up here as well too. So we should be all good to go. It's just you won't be able to see my face. You'll just get the good picture of me with the 20 pounds of less weight from COVID times. Today, we're talking about sustainability and esports programming. Sustainability is a major issue, especially now as we're coming out of the pandemic. A lot of schools, a lot of school districts, especially during the pandemic, made lots of big pushes into esports. But what happened, or what we saw happen, was in fact that there isn't a whole lot of sustainability built into what they did. What a lot of schools did in a lot of cases was to just make sure kids were playing from home and again, didn't have a real plan of what they were going to do going forward. This session today kind of talks about the importance of developing a sustainable program. And it also makes sure that we as educators are building programming that as we go into the future is going to go beyond whatever it is that we need for our students. Because in simple terms, you do become responsible forever for what you have tamed. That is a quote again from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. He is a author of the book Little Prince, and I always talk about this quote at the beginning of my presentations because what we are getting into right now is we're getting into this time now where we have now had some esports programs that are 1, 2, 3 years old, and you might be getting a little tired. You may be thinking, the esports programming right now isn't exactly where I want it to be, but the opportunity that we have again through esports is so important that you are responsible now for what you have tamed. The fact that you have started to go down this road, the fact that you have started to include students, the fact that they've gotten a taste of this, it is your responsibility now and the responsibility of all of us to make sure that we are building sustainable programming into the future. And so it's really important, as I'm going to talk about in the next 40 minutes or so, is why it is important. Now, unfortunately, I'm still trying to bring up the Hopin link, but and again, you can't see it. So everything's kind of falling apart around me. But I do a podcast regularly where I don't get to see any of you. So I'm going to just talk it through as best as I can. So when we get the start of esports programs, typically what may happen is that when they get announced or launched, you hear about the computers that they're going to buy. They're talking about the games that they're going to play. They're talking about where they're going to play. Some schools have sunk a lot of money into building facilities for esports before even having their first day and their first season. So the questions that a lot of people come to me with when I get approached about esports programming is, what computers are we going to buy? What games are we going to play? And where are we going to play it? So, but in reality, the question with which to start is, how will esports move our school district forward? That is probably the key question in all of this. You'll hear me. I don't know if you can. It seems that my microphone might have dropped off. Let me just try something here. And okay, now we're back. All right, cool. So we're back to where we can be, and I'm just going to continue to work with it this way. So how will districts move our esports program forward? So the first question that we should always ask ourselves is, whenever we're looking at building esports programming, is first know who your stakeholders are. A lot of people, when they start esports programs, do not consider their stakeholders at all. And again, if you go to Linktree,
the Linktree / Jim O'Hagan, spelled JIMOHAGAN. You will see that I've actually put this presentation in, and I've listed out some of the groups that you should consider as your stakeholders when you're building your Scholastic Esports program. First and foremost are going to be your students. We think about our students so easily because they are the ones who are typically involved in the programming. They're kind of the ones that we really think about. But what we sometimes miss with students is we think about esports as just being for a select group of students, not for all students. When we think about goals for what we want our esports program to be, again, because we're building for sustainability, we don't want to just go for those niche kids who are gamers or quote unquote gamers, because Pew Research data tells us that boys and girls across socioeconomics, across racial demographics, are playing video games. It's not to say that they all want to be competitive gamers, but we should be building our programs to make sure that we're putting out invitations to everybody in our schools and our school community. We should be making sure that when we look at our schools, a goal for my program in the Racine Unified School District across all 5 high schools is I want our school to be a cross section of our student population. So if 40% white, 30% black, 30% Hispanic, I want our teams to be along those demographics. If 15% of our students identify as LGBTQ in some way, I want to have 15% of my team at least be LGBTQ. If it's 50-50 male and female, I want it to be 50-50 male and female. So I don't want it to just be, again, the low-hanging fruit where you put the flyer up in the hallway and say, okay, let's get on with gaming today. The other group that we need to consider in our stakeholders are our teachers and our administrators. There are certain teachers who may embrace esports, and there are going to be teachers who look at gaming and gaming culture and want to really push against it. They may not understand it. So it is important that as we're building our esports programming to start to not only educate our students and our administrators as well too, or excuse me, our teachers and our administrators as well too, but we also want to make sure that we are bringing those people into our programming. So for example, working with your guidance counselors in your schools, working with your social workers in your schools, working with male and female teachers, making sure that the students see themselves in the teachers who are working in your esports programming. Case High School in Racine, Wisconsin has been a great example of that over the last couple of years. And because we not only have, Marisa Fellion, who's one of our fantastic coaches, but we also have a ethnically diverse staff with Mr. Rosales and Mr. Velasquez. So we do have, we're trying to, again, make our programming a little more inclusive, not just with our students, but also with our teachers. Is it perfect? Is it where I want it to be? Absolutely not. But again, this is talking about sustainability and how we're building for it. We also want to think about our administrators, parents. Those are parents are a big one we don't always think about. One that up until recently, I didn't really think a whole lot about, but I really should have. The school board, the community itself. That means people who just live within the communities in which we serve, and then even government. I cannot tell you how surprising and how overwhelming the response has been, not only from our local legislators and our city legislators, but our national representation too. When we talked about bringing esports into schools, bringing them an invitation that says, hey, we would love to have you come check out what we're doing, see what we're doing, be a part of this. Again, as we're building sustainable programs, the programming isn't going to just come from ourselves. We're going to, I think, in the near future, find that there's going to be value in both the federal and state, and especially state governments, but also in the federal government when it comes to the landscape of esports in the United States. So it's important that we're starting to educate our legislators now and invite them as part of the conversation. The second thing that I always do with regards to our schools and our school district programming, when we're talking about building sustainability, is what are your district and your school goals? Now, again, these are things that are going to be unique to your school and your school district. A lot of
companies out there are going to promise you these silver bullet solutions where they're coming to you with turnkey. The phrases I'm starting to put up my warning signs on are when I hear turnkey and when I hear pipeline. When I hear turnkey or pipeline, those are words right now that are starting to make me feel very nervous. Even the word curriculum starts to make me a little nervous too, because everybody has a curriculum, everybody has a solution, everybody has the look. What we're doing here is not a turnkey solution. What we are doing here is what is best for our students within our schools. So what is it that you need? What are the games that are going to engage your kids in the ways that you want them to be engaged or that they want to engage? Now, there's always going to be a push and a pull with some of those game titles. For example, in my school district, we're not going to play Call of Duty. But we can find alternative solutions and at least have the discussion about what we want to play. So when we're looking at our school goals, or excuse me, when I look at my district goals as priorities, these are and these are all 5 of our main strategic goals that I have identified that can work within esports. The first is we want to be an educational choice for families in the Southeast region of Wisconsin. That's one of our #1 goals. We want to accelerate higher levels of student performance. We want to close student achievement gaps. We want to ensure positive, engaging environments. And we want to endorse learning paths for post-secondary training, college, and career readiness for every student. Now, are those goals going to be your goals within your district or your school? Probably not word for word, but there might be some elements in there. What we need to do third, after we figure out what those goals are when it comes to building sustainable programs, is we want to reflect on those goals. Okay, so when I'm looking at this through the lens of the Racine Unified School District, what am I going to want esports to be? And the things that I have done with my programming here in the Racine Unified School District is I've actually developed these 5 pillars that we build our esports program around. So #1, we want to redefine our athletic culture. And in some ways, we're also starting now to see that we want to redefine our esports and our gaming culture within our schools. We want to diversify opportunities for student participation. We want to increase career and collegiate scholarship pathways. We want to promote positive mental and physical health, and we want to honor the importance of play. Those are the 5 things that we build our programming around. Now, even within our own school district, we have several different schools, different high schools, different middle schools. We've got 5 different high schools, and then we also have, I think, 5 different middle schools. The middle schools is a group that we're going down the path now with developing their programming. And what I have found is that the middle schools actually, in some cases, have very particular needs that are much more unique even than the comprehensive high schools that we have. So for example, we have one school in our school district, a middle school, who has had terrible attendance issues. When we're looking at building our programming, we want to make sure that we're building programming that is going to attract our students who are not attending school currently or on a regular basis. So that means I have to engage, again, social workers, counselors, parents in a much different way than, say, I would over at our fine arts school. Our fine arts school has less attendance issues, but our fine arts school has goals around having children participate in the performing arts. So again, the difference, even in our own school boundaries, the difference of programming is going to be very different. How we launch and where we launch certain aspects of programming are going to be different based off of what the current needs are for students. Because again, we're building for sustainability. We're building something that even in the face of 8-digit deficits that my school district has faced in the last several years, we have been able to actually increase our budget. We have actually been able to make sure that as millions of dollars is being lost because we do have some students who are still continuing to leave our district or our enrollment numbers are going down, we are still able to grow our program because we are speaking to specifically the strategic needs of the school district, and we're speaking to the strategic needs of each school. So it makes it a lot easier conversation to say, hey, we have increased with some of these troubled students, we've increased their attendance rate, or we've increased their GPA, or now we have college scholarship opportunities, or pushing against the mental health crisis that we have within our city.
all those things come together into the entire bit of data, and it makes it a lot easier for a school board, again, one of our stakeholders being the school board, and the administration to support our programming within the school district. And what I even do with some of these, because you never know when the conversation is going to take place. Again, engaging your stakeholders. It's going to take place in the community when you're walking around town. You have that sudden conversation with somebody who, says to you, "Hey, I see you do this esports thing, but I don't really get it." I always have on the ready, and this may sound a little nerdy, but I have something on the ready where it is a document. And if you go into the Linktree/Jim O'Hagan, you'll see two documents there, one about why esports and the other one about the specific strategic goals of our school district. You can read over that document. It's only one page. It's 5 short paragraphs, but I've taken each one of those points, whether it's why esports or our strategic goals, and I've spoken to where esports fits into every single one of our strategic goals. Everybody here, if you have an esports program at your school and you have not taken the time to sit down and figure out where your esports program fits in the strategic landscape of your school district, your sustainability is actually threatened. Because as things start to get cut, as things start to pull back from your school district, you could potentially be looking at a program that you and the kids have really endeared to yourselves. You don't want to have to fight that fight in front of a school board at the last moment. You want it to be so successful, even if you're not winning. Let's just say, because winning at this point, none of my strategic goals says we're going to win state championships. If you're winning and you're not even out there telling your story, or if your group of students is so it's homogenous and it isn't about the school culture, you are potentially, again, setting yourself up for a massive cut. So, like, for example, and I'll read one to you in case you're not able to see the document here. Let's look at how esports closes student achievement gap. Okay, so one of our strategic goals in the school district is to close the student achievement gap. This is what I wrote. Through increased opportunities for student participation, student attendance improves, grades go up, and subsequently graduation rates improve. With a high school demographic of 97% males and 83% females identifying at some level of being a gamer, according to Pew Research, and overlays with interests like art, broadcasting, marketing, and physical training, esports provides a crucial opportunity for student participation. When we have our scholar gamers involved with esports, this can also be an opportunity for them to become more familiar with their possible pathway choice in the academies of Racine. And the academies of Racine is our academy program. Or let's take, because I think this one is one that maybe throws people a little bit. Be the educational choice for families in the southeast region of Wisconsin. That's, again, one of our strategic goals. And you may say, why does that have to be such a priority? Well, again, because we are a turnkey solution, Wisconsin is a state that allows students to pick up their tax dollars and go to another district. And the Racine district has been fighting and losing students for years now. So we see esports as a way to attract these districts, these families who are trying to leave our district. We are trying to attract them back through esports. So when we talk about being an educational choice, play is the work of childhood. Play allows students invaluable learning opportunities, including how to work with others, manage feelings, think, plan, make decisions, and develop empathy. We have an opportunity to connect with our students in a space where they love to play. Children are choosing to play video games. When schools embrace esports, we are honoring the importance of play. We are providing experiences not typically found in most other local districts. To be a choice for families in Southeast Wisconsin, esports needs to be an integral part of our culture. So again, we're looking at this from a strategic standpoint, not just we're going to play some video games and let's build out soft skills. I'm not saying soft skills aren't important, but if you stop at soft skills, again, you're losing out on a much bigger opportunity that you have with your esports programming. After you've kind of sorted your strategic goals and where they fit in and how esports fits in all of them, we want to engage with our stakeholders. So again, we want to engage with our students in particular. So as I talked about earlier, we don't want to just put up a flyer and say, let's do esports, please come out and be a part of this. We know that if we do that, if we just put up the flyer and we don't actively try to recruit our students to become scholar gamers in our program, whether they want to be gamers or if they want to be media specialists or they want to do shoutcasting or they want to even just be a part of something. I would never turn a child away who just wants to come be a part of things with us. We want to make sure that we are engaging with them. We are engaging with our teachers and educating them. One of the saddest things I heard in the last couple of years was how our students over at Case High School were trying to get into the weight room. And I'm sure Dan, if he's listening to this, can kind of relay this story as well too, better than I can. But the essence of it was that they're trying to get into the weight room, and basically somebody said to them, why does the esports team even need to get into the weight room? Well, again, that's not and you're kind of a little bit aback. We do want to promote good mental and physical health, and we have found that through our program that when we start to engage kids into introducing them into these opportunities to get into the weight room using intrinsically motivating things like gaming and esports, it starts to then reintroduce the idea of what exercise and the importance of exercise and how it is. It doesn't have to be squatting 400 pounds and lifting 200 pounds or anything like that. The activity of lifting weights, the activity of cardiovascular training actually trains the brain. It actually helps to create new neural pathways within the brain. These are things that don't necessarily always happen in esports and esports programming. But when you look at the professional teams, these are things professional teams are doing as well. So it is important that we are, again, starting to open up conversations with our teachers. And it doesn't have to be this, 30-minute session at an all-school meeting. These can be little drip things that you send out to teachers in a short email. If you do have like a Friday newsletter or something that goes out, promote your teams. If your teams are not getting promoted on the PA when we do our morning announcements in our schools, make sure that is starting to happen as well too. Again, with our stakeholders, we want to start bringing our administrators, principals, assistant principals, and even our athletic directors, even if your program is not under athletics. I have found that even though the conversations are sometimes hard and there's a lot of push from athletic directors to kind of, I don't want to say put esports down, and that's not been universal by any means. Some of my biggest advocates have been our athletic directors, but those people now become allies. Your athletic directors, even though you may not have your esports program under athletics, these are going to be some of your biggest allies who, if you can get them on board, can also help to tell the story in ways or help you kind of navigate things that maybe athletic directors really understand really well, such as scheduling, planning, buses, those kind of things. Because even though there isn't necessarily always going to be a bus trip, we're starting to see that the value of LAN parties, the value of getting kids actually together into spaces to play against each other, because it is a very different thing. When we do it at our state championships, it's a very different vibe in the state of Wisconsin at a state championship than it is during a competition week. It's a very different vibe when I'm able to put Park High School and Case High School or Real or Walden or Horlick all together in the same space and have them play against each other than if they were playing each other separately. That's one of the things that I'm really looking forward as we come out of the pandemic. That is something I hope we can get at. Parents, parents have been, if you're looking for program sustainability, if you're looking for ways to get additional dollars into your program, ask yourself, what have we done to engage our parents? Because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of parents who are going to be very supportive. There's also going to be parents who are going to be very hesitant because they don't understand necessarily what's happening. They don't understand what esports even is. They see that their kid has a jersey. They see that their kid is playing some video games or going to a practice or is really excited about this. But it's something for their child to come home and be excited about what it is they're doing, but it's another thing for a school leader to approach a parent and say, we really want you to be a part of this, and let's explain why. And really make sure that your parent messaging is on point. Make sure that you're providing actual scientific research. It's hard to not get emotional about these things when we have some people who may immediately flip the stereotypes, but do make sure that you are engaging your parents in some way, because when we're talking about sustainability and there's potential for cuts, your parent groups are going to be ones who can put such amazing pressure on school boards to make sure that these things stay sustainable. Our school board and our community and our government, I've already spoken about them a little bit. But again, if you have not invited, I will say about government, if you have not invited in your local, city council people, state, local reps, even your federal House of Representative or senators, governor, Department of Public Instruction, these are groups that are, first of all, they love a photo op. So they love to be around kids. They love a good photo op, especially when it's something that, esports is something that is so new. And for a lot of our leaders, they love to make sure that they're in the front of it. And I'll tell you, some of the best allies we've had in the state of Wisconsin, where we are preparing and still working on legislation here in the state, where we do have champions now at all different levels of the governor's office, because we started with conversations 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not saying it's all going to happen overnight, but again, you want to make sure that you're engaging your government. And even when we're talking about community, one of the things that we have done in the city of Milwaukee in the southeast Wisconsin area is we have now formed an alliance between public, private, and government groups to better coordinate our esports efforts. So we want to make sure that we are, again, bringing all of our groups together at this time. And I know I only have a few minutes left, and then I hopefully will be able to pull up some of the Q&A, because right now I can't readily see it, but I hope that I will in just a second here. When it comes to all of this, then we finally are able to say, hey, computers, what are we going to play? What games are we going to buy? Blah, blah, blah. I'm just kidding. Actually, we're not. The next thing that we have to figure out, after we've got our stakeholders and we're starting to build our stakeholder groups and we've built our strategic values, guess what, folks? We have to talk about budget. And when we're talking about budget, I don't mean just what computers, again, are we going to buy and the chairs we're going to buy and the games we're going to play. First of all, when we're talking about budget, if you are not paying your staff right now, if the esports staff in your school is doing this out of the kindness of their own heart, we would never ask that of a basketball coach. We would never ask that of a football coach or a baseball coach or a drama teacher who's doing a play, or any of these kind of extracurricular activities. Esports coach, esports season, we call our general manager, their season literally pretty much goes all year round. There's spring and fall season, there's even winter seasons now, there's tournaments going on constantly. And because of the value of this for students, because for a lot of especially our marginalized student populations, this can become a place of safety. You need to make sure that your staff is adequately taken care of. I will tell you that in our school district, our esports staff is paid $5,000 for an entire school year. And I even think that that's low. Initially, my number that I wanted to go with was 10,000, because again, they're doing this from September all the way out till June, basically, in a lot of cases. So we want to make sure you pay your staff. You want to set aside money for jerseys. You do want to set aside money for travel. And again, this list, if you go to Linktree/Jim O'Hagan, so it's linktr.ee/Jim O'Hagan, JIMOHAGAN. You'll see this whole list here, but we want to have money for travel. Even though you may think, like, where would we go? Again, there's tournaments popping up all over the place. There's nothing like getting on a bus and going to have a LAN tournament. It's a totally different experience if you can afford it. We want to make sure we have money set aside for trophies and for rings. This year I got caught because we did have a state championship. The Case High School Super Smash Brothers team won the state championship, and we had money set aside for rings. So I was able to buy them all monster, beautiful rings from Jostens. You want to make sure you have money for snacks.
healthy snacks. Don't do the sugary stuff. Make sure you're keeping, if we're talking about health and wellness, make sure your snacks are appropriately to the program that you're trying to develop. We want to make sure we have some money set aside for coaching clinics. There are some good ones that are starting to pop up. I can see that, there's coaches helping coaches, but at the same time, we should, again, be getting paid for our expertise at this point. We shouldn't just be giving it away all the time. Combines now are ways that kids are starting to get noticed by colleges, because the college recruiting scene is still a lot messy. So combines are starting to pop up, and those do cost money. So do make sure to let your kids be found in that way. You also want to consider the life cycle of your tech. Some of these things, video cards, processors, RAM, even solid state drives, you may need to go bigger on those, but those things are going to be about 2 to 3 year life cycles for some of these pieces. So do make sure that you're looking in and budgeting for your upgrades, and also a budget for furniture. So again, if you want to do gaming chairs, me personally, I'm not a huge fan of gaming chairs. I find that they're sometimes a little bit more stylish than practical. But you might, for example, there's a couple of pieces of furniture I've found from VS Furniture. The hockey stools, which only a student can sit on it for about 20 minutes before they start to get their butts tired. But again, if we're talking about movement, if we're talking about building a program that is for kids to get health and wellness out of it, it is important to find chairs that aren't going to make them be sedentary per se. They want them to be comfortable. Yes, we want them to be focused on the games, but we also want to encourage movement. We don't want to encourage them sitting for 4-hour gaming sessions. After all of this, your budget, you have gone through and you've started to connect with your stakeholders. You've figured out your strategic goals. You have done all these things. Then it is time to start talking about what games will you buy, and what computers are you going to buy as well too. So again, to kind of summarize here, and hopefully I'll have a few minutes for questions. The big 6 things that we're talking about when we're talking about building sustainability: 1, who are your stakeholders? 2, what are your district and school goals? Number 3, reflect on those district and school goals in esports. Engage with your stakeholders, make sure you budget and have a budget plan for not just this coming year, but 3 years out at least. And then what computers will you buy, and what games will you play? And it is important to realize, again, that you do become responsible forever for what you have tamed. Again, that's leading off to the quote. So as you're building these programs, let's not just build it for the here and now, let's build it for sustainability. Let's build it into the future. And with that, again, if you want to see this presentation, feel free to go to Linktree/Jim O'Hagan. You can pull it there. Or if you want to hear more of me giving a podcast type speech, if you were not even watching me and you just kind of had me on in the background, which is cool, you could do it again later this afternoon if you want. The Academy of Esports podcast is live, and we're coming back up on our 3rd year, I think, third and a half year of the podcast. And also the Esports EDU chats are now available as a podcast form as well too. So if it's not just me you care to hear about, but all these other great educators we've got in the space, please do check it out. And now, hopefully, I will be able to go into the Hopin app and pull up any Q&A that we have here. So if you would just give me a second. Let's see if I can do it from here. audio. Oh, the audio's back. Okay. Any other questions anybody has? Again, I apologize for the technical snafus to Todd, to everybody else. I apologize. But that's all I've got for you today, unless you have some questions, I hope. Again, I'm going to pop over to see if there is. Let me make sure I get back in. Okay. I did see a question that popped up. How old is the program in Racine? That's a really good question, especially when we're talking about sustainability. I'll give you the quick narrative on the history of the school district esports program. I came from the Rockford Public Schools, where we started an esports program about 6 years ago. And we started at Guilford High School with one high school. And the Rockford Public Schools at the time had 4 high schools and 1 comprehensive alternative school. When I came to Racine, I really saw opportunity for us to build and grow from the things we learned from the Rockford program. So we started with grant funding. It was about $21,000, and we purchased gaming laptops. We didn't purchase any equipment. And again, we were kind of looking at, we wanted to make sure we got the program going. And the Walden School was one of our schools that we started with because they did not have an in-house athletic program at all. A kid at the Walden School, if they wanted to participate in sports or extracurriculars, for the most part, they had to go to their home high school, with some exceptions. But for the most part, if a child at the Walden School wanted to participate in any athletic extracurriculars, they had to go to their home high school. So we made sure to start the program there. And again, we started it in the basement of the school, gaming laptops, no fancy furniture, no LED lights. But we did have a student who came out that first year and came away with a scholarship to Robert Morris University. That was something that really sparked the interest, obviously, of our school board, of our superintendent. The next year, we expanded our program to include the traditional comprehensive high schools of the school district, which is Case, Horlick, and Park High School. And in our third year, we added the Real School, which is our engineering school. So all 5 of our high schools now. So the esports program in Racine, we are coming up on year 5. This will be our 5th year. So it's been around for quite a bit. And again, while state championships are not something that I'm totally enamored with, we did win our first state championship for one of the games, Super Smash Brothers, this year. And what I loved about that team, and I want to speak about that for just a second, is that was a team of basically all freshmen 3 years ago who got their butts kicked every time they went out. And they went from being absolutely just, again, getting their butts kicked to being world beaters this year. It was amazing to see, and we still have them for another year. So they get to hopefully repeat. All those kids are coming back here for senior year. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to check and see if there's another question. And if there isn't, we'll wrap up. And I'll thank you for your time, but I'm going to see if there is. It looks like there was no other questions. So with that, I will thank you for your time. And again, I apologize for all the technical snafus, but I think we made it work. This sounds like it would be a pretty good podcast episode if I did it. So thank you, everybody, for being a part of this. And if you want to connect with me again, it was in the Q&A or the question chat, the session chat. So feel free to connect with me there.